Hello, you're watching UzReport World News with me, Davron Jumayev. Kyrgyz MPs have approved an economic amnesty bill that allows individuals who obtain financial assets through illegal means to avoid prosecution by surrendering their assets to the state treasury. The move will do nothing to allay concerns that organized crime is posing a growing threat to democracy in Kyrgyzstan. The fears were voiced by the U.S. Embassy in Bishkek last October amid the upheaval that led to the fall of the Sooronbay Jeenbekov administration and the rise to power of fervent nationalist Sadir Japarov, who was freed from jail by supporters during the turmoil that followed a parliamentary election that losing opposition parties decried as fixed. Kyrgyz authorities have reportedly said that the bill may affect around 1,300 individuals convicted or suspected of enriching themselves through tax evasion, financial fraud, smuggling, and other economic misdeeds. A number of updates and amendments have been made to the tax code of Uzbekistan. Changes have been introduced in the procedure for the application of privileges for the provision of passenger transport services by urban passenger transport and public passenger road transport, with the exception of taxis. The benefit is applied to the carriers if the Hokimiats establish a uniform tariff for the carriage.
The sale and import turnover of goods acquired through loans from international financial institutions and international loans from governmental organizations will now be exempted from tax if guaranteed by law. Excise tax was abolished on 73 items, including electrical products, refrigerators, air conditioners, washing machines, tractors and semi-trailers, food products, margarine and confectionery products. When petrol, diesel, liquefied and compressed gas are excise goods imported to consumers for their own needs, the tax shall be deducted from importers themselves. Natural wines, exempt bottled wine sold by producers in tested areas along tourist routes, are not subject to taxation.
It is no secret that smoking harms the health, the treasury and the spirit of any country of the world. Based on the Tobacco Atlas, every year more than 18,600 of people are killed by tobacco-caused disease. Still, more than 20,000 children from 10 to 14 years old or over 2 million adults older than 15 years old continue to use tobacco each day. According to the World Health Organization, smokers make up 1.1 billion of the world's population. In Uzbekistan, Nasvar accounts for 90% of smokeless tobacco consumption.
Around 23% of men in Uzbekistan consume Nasvar. It is manufactured manually. The ingredient contains nicotine, calcium hydroxide, flavors and other chemicals. Oils may also be added. The product is very harmful to health. Patients come to our center and receive treatment. They often come to us with a diagnosis of oral cancer. When we specify, 95% of them are whistleblowers.
Over the past 5 years, tobacco consumption among young people aged from 18 to 29 in Uzbekistan has halved. However, more than 860,000 of 1.7 million smokeless cigarette users remain at a risk of premature death every day. If appropriate measures are not taken, this number may rise again.
Almost 4% of male respondents have tracheal cancer and 3.8% have oral cancer. Men have much higher incidence of gum cancer than women. These are the effects of all these chemicals. Nasvar affects not only the body but also the environment. It is disgusting when you walk around town and there are leftovers on the roads.
Today, a group of scientists, doctors, WHO experts and partner organizations are determined to fight against this poison. The use of such products among students is detected by law enforcement agencies in Uzbekistan during school inspections.
In 2019, more than 110 cases of the use of snouts by children were identified. To date, more than 270 cases have been detected. Most of the students in the schools throw them in the classroom. These products have no smell or smoke. They are harder to spot. They have a stronger effect on health than cigarettes. However, we can't punish them. We can only inform their parents. We have no prohibition, only restriction. These products are sold to persons above 18 years old.
Tech giant Apple may soon open its official offices in Uzbekistan. This was announced at a briefing organized by Uzbekistan's Agency for Information and Mass Communications. Representative of the agency Sherzod Akhmadov said that Uzbekistan's import of mobile devices soared tenfold in 2020. As of November 1st, 2020, the country imported 782,000 mobile phones. Apple's rival Samsung to date has 4 official offices in the country. Uzbekistan has replaced the internal biometric passports with national ID cards, the Interior Ministry reported. ID cards are issued primarily to citizens reaching 16 years, to citizens who lost their passports or whose passports expired, as well as to those willing to change their names or ethnicity until December 31st, 2022. Starting 2023, the replacement of biometric passports with ID cards will become mandatory. The ID cards will be valid for 10 years and can be used only on the territory of Uzbekistan. The replacement procedure will last until January 1st, 2030. Uzbekistan is one of the few countries in the world that makes money by selling cute license plates for cars. The word cute herewith means repeating numbers. If you want to have a distinguished plate with repeating numbers like 555 or 666, you have to be ready to fork out. Recently, the government has simplified the sale procedure and people can now buy plates at online auctions. On Monday, the car plate 30Z 777ZZ went under Amr at over $57,000, breaking the record in Uzbekistan, while the initial bid was just over $10,000. In 2020, Uzbek citizens bought $25 million worth license plates. Competition to develop a design for a creative studio for children with autism has been announced by the Foundation for the Development of Culture and Art. Architects with a relevant education background can attend it. The project is set to provide an architectural and infrastructural opportunity to use the creative workshop, comfortable conditions for classes, socialization and creative rehabilitation of children with autism. The competition is funded by the Foundation's funds and the studio itself will be built with the money raised from the charity Samarkand Half Marathon. Silk products under the brand Made in Uzbekistan are exported to date into markets of Iran, China, Bangladesh and the United Arab Emirates. This direction is considered as one of the main sources of the revenues for the country. According to Bahrom Sharipov, chairperson of the State Committee for the Development of Silk Industry, domestic enterprises exported $76.5 million worth silk products last year alone. The country has also raised $95.3 million investments for the launch of the new production facilities.
Experts emphasize that being active not only in the domestic but also in foreign markets is the basis for the creation of a national brand.
In Italy, there is a region of Como where they produce finished products based on silk fabric under their own brand, then export to other European countries. We want to move these plants from there to Uzbekistan and produce them here based on their brands, then export to Russia and other neighboring countries, including Europe. We are on the part of the embassy. We try to make this information available to the largest number of people.
The firm Namunali Asatbek, specializing in caracal breeding, has already received an order from the countries of Transcaucasia for 5,000 pieces of high-quality skins.
Pay attention to the skin. It is a very rare species and it is produced only in the Tortkol district of Karakalpakstan. We had 50 sheep in 2014, but the interest in the products was not high. Now we have more than 350 goats. We have received an order for 5,000 skins. It will not be easy. It will take us 5 years. So we have decided to ask the neighboring farms to help us. And I think if the 4 districts unite, we will be able to export the necessary amount of skins.
Plans for 2021 include the production of 15,000 tons of wool, 608,000 pieces of Astrakhan skins, and 6,000 bobbins of thread, as well as creation of 281 new enterprises in the industry.
More than 120 people have become the victim of the unsafe use of pyrotechnics on the New Year's Eve in Uzbekistan. Besides, fires broke out in 6 houses. Some 12 million units of pyrotechnic products were seized across the country. 258 people were brought to administrative responsibility, 17 to criminal charges.
Despite the ban on illegal production and the sale of pyrotechnics in 2010, a huge amount of pyrotechnics is seized every year. On the New Year's Eve, fireworks and firecrackers were used everywhere.
The Senate of Uzbekistan gathered heads of diplomatic missions abroad to discuss the state budget for 2021. The agenda of the meeting that took place on Monday also included such issues as the fight against corruption, strengthening of parliamentary control, etc.
The ambassadors were asked to strengthen the role of parliamentary diplomacy in strengthening relations between states. If we discuss participation of the parliament in the implementation of specific projects, we can give Karakalpakstan as an example. In accordance with the presidential decree, a development program for 3 years was adopted. 70 of the 1,359 projects are far-fetched. We have put 43 of them in order. In such cases, the Senate is reliable. At the end of 2020, representatives of the diplomatic corps visited the regions of the Republic, in particular, the Republic of Karakalpakstan, the Kharazm region, where they got acquainted with the problems and shortcomings, changes and the opportunities of the regions.
In the future, we will know exactly in which district it is necessary to attract foreign capital, state grants and other financial and technical assistance from abroad, including from the United States and Canada.
U.S. President Donald Trump and President-elect Joe Biden were headed to Georgia Monday to make their final pitch ahead of high-stakes elections that will determine control of the U.S. Senate and the likely fate of President-elect Joe Biden's legislative agenda.
Who's going up to Dalton to welcome President Trump to Georgia?
The final push by both the incoming and outgoing presidents underscores just how important both Senate races are. Incumbent Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler are battling to hold their seats and secure GOP control of the Senate.
The whole country is watching Georgia voters.
Respective challengers Democrats Jon Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock need to win both seats to produce a 50-50 split in the Senate, with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris holding the tie-breaking vote. The campaigns have obliterated spending records and early voting has shattered runoff records, with 3 million ballots already cast. Biden's narrow victory in Georgia in the presidential race helped put the traditionally red state in play for Democrats. Black turnout critical to the Democrats' chances has been robust. About 1/3 of the early ballots have come from self-identified black voters.
They know when we vote, things change.
Ahead of Tuesday's twin runoff elections, big names have flocked to Georgia.
This is a dogfight down here.
To join candidates as they fan out across the state, with the exception of Senator Perdue, who has been absent after being exposed to someone infected with the coronavirus. Trump's visit on Monday has some Republicans concerned. Over the weekend, the president was heard in a recording on a telephone call published by U.S. media, pressuring Georgia's top election official to, quote, find enough votes to overturn his defeat, blaming without evidence that fraud cost him the vote. The president's claims have some worried that his most ardent supporters may stay home, convinced the vote is rigged. If close, the results could remain unclear for days as ballots are counted, and legal challenges could prolong the process. The GOP needs just one victory. If either Loeffler or Perdue win, the GOP will retain its Senate majority and the ability to block Biden's most ambitious goals.
The government is once again instructing you to stay at home.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Monday ordered England into a new national lockdown to contain a surge in COVID-19 cases that threatens to overwhelm parts of the health system before a vaccine program reaches a critical mass. Johnson said a new, more contagious variant of the coronavirus, first identified in the United Kingdom and now present in many other countries, was spreading at great speed and immediate action was needed to slow it down.
It's clear that we need to do more together to bring this new variant under control while our vaccines are rolled out. In England, we must therefore go into a national lockdown which is tough enough to contain this variant.
Johnson added this about the new lockdown measures.
You may only leave home for limited reasons permitted in law, such as to shop for essentials, to work if you absolutely cannot work from home, to exercise, to seek medical assistance, such as getting a COVID test, or to escape domestic abuse.
Johnson said that if the vaccine rollout went as planned and the number of deaths responded to the lockdown measures as expected, it should be possible to start moving out of lockdown by the middle of February. However, he urged caution about the timetable and appealed to everyone to comply with the rules. Britain's economy suffered a historic crash between April and June of last year as swaths of businesses were shuttered by the first lockdown, and the new lockdown is also expected to put a strain on the economy.
Iran has resumed 20% uranium enrichment at an underground nuclear facility, the government said on Monday, breaching a 2015 nuclear pact with major powers and possibly complicating efforts by U.S. President-elect Joe Biden to rejoin the deal. The breach coincides with increasing tensions between Iran and the United States in the final days of President Donald Trump's administration. Tehran started violating the accord in 2019 after Trump withdrew from the pact,
hostile actions,
and reimposed U.S. sanctions that had been lifted. Monday's step was one of many mentioned in a law passed by Iran's parliament last month in response to the killing of the country's top nuclear scientist, which Tehran has blamed on Israel. Such moves by Iran could hinder attempts by the incoming Biden administration to re-enter the agreement. U.S. intelligence agencies believe Iran had a secret coordinated nuclear weapons program that it halted in 2003. Iran denies ever having had one. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Monday Iran's increased enrichment of uranium was aimed at developing nuclear weapons, and Israel would never allow Tehran to build them.
Iranian naval vessels have reportedly seized a tanker ship flagged to South Korea and its crew members that were operating in the Gulf. Iranian media outlets say the vessel was taken for polluting the seaway with chemicals, but it comes at a difficult time between the two countries because Iran has over $7 billion frozen in South Korean banks due to U.S. sanctions. And South Korea's deputy foreign minister is expected to visit Iran within days to discuss those frozen assets. The tanker is called the Hankul Kemi, is said to have been carrying 7,200 tons of ethanol and was seized by Iran's Revolutionary Guards. It's now being held at a port on the Iranian coast. The crew reportedly includes members from South Korea, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Myanmar. Shipping analysts suggest the ship was traveling between Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
This is a deadly disease. This is a deadly pandemic.
California Governor Gavin Newsom said on Monday that COVID-19 has killed 4,000 Californians in the last 2 weeks and expects numbers to rise as a result of the holidays.
Well, we anticipate the surge on top of a surge. It's going to put a lot of pressure on hospitals and ICUs coming out of the holidays.
Already with intensive care units stretching capacity, nearly 100 patients have been transferred to what the state calls alternate care facilities. And members of the National Guard have been deployed to assist overwhelmed medical staff.
1, 2, 3.
Meanwhile, a more infectious variant has reared its head in states across the country. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo confirmed the state's first case of the variant in his remarks on Monday, and that it is, in fact, more contagious. It still remains to be seen if the variant increases hospitalizations. If it does, Cuomo says it would be a, quote, game changer.
Egypt's tourism sector is eyeing a gradual recovery in 2021 after seeing revenues plunge by nearly 70% last year because of the coronavirus pandemic. The country boasts some of the world's greatest tourist attractions, but severe restrictions on travel meant the industry took a big hit. Tourists visiting Egypt sank to 3.5 million last year from 13.1 million in 2019, leaving hotels just 10 to 15% full compared to a year earlier. Officials have been unveiling new archaeological discoveries in an effort to revive visitor numbers. The opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum next to the pyramids has also been delayed until later this year to entice tourists to return. Tourism accounts for up to 15% of Egypt's national output and is a major source of foreign currency. Mohammed Farouk is chief executive of travel agency Egypt Express.
Everything heals. The tourism sector will heal. But this, of course, will be incremental. In 2021, with the vaccine, recovery will be incremental. It will be slow, not in the fast way that is expected. until this virus is totally controlled.
Egypt plans to start COVID-19 vaccinations this month after approving a vaccine made in China, but it was unclear how quickly the program could be rolled out.
Paralysed and severely malnourished, 7-year-old Fayed Samim weighs just over 15 pounds. He lies curled up on a hospital bed in the Yemeni capital Sana'a, having barely survived the journey there. Raghi Mohammed is a doctor at the Al Sabin hospital.
We received this case yesterday. He almost passed because it took them a long time to get here because of the roadblocks. He was almost gone when he arrived, but thank God we were able to do what was necessary, and he started improving. He is suffering from cerebral palsy and severe malnutrition. We admitted him to the malnutrition ward, and even though he's still tired, he's much better than yesterday.
His family had to travel over 100 miles through checkpoints and damaged roads to get him there. Unable to afford his medication or treatment, Fayed's grandma says the family relies on donations to get him treated.
The blockade is all around us and the war as well. We couldn't find cars to bring us here, no gas, no money. We are besieged from everywhere and these diseases kill. We have sick people and we can't treat them.
Famine has never been officially declared in Yemen, but a 6-year war has left 80% of the population reliant on aid, and the UN says it's the world's largest humanitarian crisis. Aid ramped up in late 2018 after the United Nations warned of impending famine. But now coronavirus restrictions, locusts, floods and significant underfunding of the 2020 aid response are exacerbating hunger.
These cases have increased in recent times with the war and the blockade. People's financial situation is dire and they aren't able to provide for their children, to the extent that their kids get sick and they can't save them. And sometimes it even gets worse than this. Then someone comes and helps them out with some money. Only then can they bring their children to the hospital.
Wall Street greeted the first trading day of the new year with the biggest sell-off in 2 months for the Dow and S&P 500 after both briefly touched new record highs. Investors seem to be spooked ahead of Tuesday's runoff elections in Georgia, which will determine control of the U.S. Senate and could determine what President-elect Joe Biden can get done during his term. The Dow fell 382 points, the S&P 500 lost 55, the Nasdaq gave up 189. Tim Bray, senior portfolio manager at Guidestone Capital Management, doesn't see Monday's pullback as a harbinger of things to come.
The market likes certainty, and this is creating a lot of uncertainty as those goes forward. We think near term, though, once those elections are settled out, the market's going to continue to head higher on additional fiscal stimulus that will come if the Democrats do sweep the Senate. And if they don't, we think the markets will head higher on the status quo. So either way, markets are poised to continue to go higher.
But Wall Street still has to grapple with a health crisis that does not appear to be slowing down despite several approved vaccines. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Monday announced another national lockdown, which investors fear will likely dampen the global economy. Travel and tourism stocks were among the biggest losers of the day, the group also taking a hit now that the peak holiday travel season is over. Norwegian Cruise Line sank nearly 7%, hotel operator Marriott was down more than 5%, and American Airlines fell 4%. But on the upside, Tesla, the electric car company, continued its record run to fresh all-time highs. Investors cheered Tesla's better-than-expected vehicle delivery numbers for 2020.
These were the top headlines for today. Stay safe and goodbye.